Welcome to JGod Gaming. In today's video I wanted to focus a little bit on another review, and today's review is going to be focused around Assassin's Creed Origins. Just recently completed the entire main story quest. I put in over 20 hours on the game, so I think I got a good idea of how to rate it. So what I'll do is rate it on the different criteria like I did with my previous review. And I'll break it down so you kind of have an idea if it's worth buying, worth playing, and worth getting. The 7 criteria I'll be using are the graphics, sound and music, controls, overall gameplay, the story, what I thought of the length, overall difficulty, is it replayable and what the replayability is it original, and then also the value for your money, and then I'll sum up all those and get an overall score as well. First up was graphics. I'd say that the overall graphics of the game is 8 out of 10. The reason why I say that is because there's plenty of beautiful scenes, as you'll see in the gameplay that I have in the background. Heads up, no spoilers on that as well. But as far as just the overall scenery, I think it's done really well. There's different water element. There's other graphical things that were done as well as dynamic weather. There's sandstorms. There's a lot of different things that I think overall for the scale and size of the actual map, it's pretty impressive. The next category is sound and music, and I'd say for that, I'd say a 10 out of 10. They nail all the different sounds that you're accustomed to in an Assassin's Creed video game, as well as all the different weapon sounds, and many other of the actual music is set perfectly for all the tones that happen within the game, all the cutscenes. Pretty well done. Next up is controls. I gave controls a 7 out of 10, primarily because they don't give you a lot of info when you get started. So if you're brand new to the series, you'd probably struggle with some of the mechanics. Even though they are very simplistic, there are some modifications that make it a little bit trickier, and the game doesn't do a great job of giving you a tutorial to understand those if you're very new to the franchise. I would imagine most people aren't very new to it, but the people that are going to have a little bit of difficulty in the beginning, I think. So for that, I gave it a 7 out of 10. Next up is gameplay, and gameplay I gave it an 8 out of 10. And the reason I did that is because I think overall the game is just really fun to play. They added some new dynamics in the game that are new features that weren't in previous ones. Like the bird flyover, I think they stole that from their other game, Wildlands, with the drone. It feels very similar to marking targets and things like that. And then it also added other dynamic in the game as far as gameplay being fun. As far as the story goes, I gave it an 8 out of 10. And I think it's a nice story. It plays along the lines of a lot of the previous ones, but they got rid of a lot of the out of the Animus stuff. So it's pretty straightforward. You're this character, you're following this character, and then you have a mission that you gotta go and kill and continue to kill. And like it's always the same thing, assassinate. But I think since this is the origin story, they were able to take a little bit more liberties, whereas the other ones, they kind of had to stick to a strict kind of story guideline. When grading the game's difficulty, I give it a solid 7 out of 10, primarily because you can change the difficulty at any time. I did experiment with a little bit. It wasn't a huge difference when modifying it. I felt that the actual recommendations for missions was way more indicative of how difficult things would be. For example, if you were going into a mission where they were recommended level 10 and you were level 7, 3 levels difference was significant, where to the point that if you got hit twice, you'd probably die, and it would take you 3 to 4 times as many hits to actually kill enemies. So that was more the, determining factor of how difficult it was based off what level you were. The game overall is pretty lengthy, so rating the game 9 out of 10 is pretty spot on, I think, because it takes you about 20 to 25 hours to complete the main story. Obviously, when you're going through, you have to level up at certain times. They kind of force you, or else you're going to be stuck failing the main story mission because of the recommendation. When you actually play all the other side stuff, there's over 60 side quests and 25 story missions. So you can imagine that's 85 missions. You can put in some reasonable amount of time collecting all the different gear to upgrade and just stacking out your character as best you can to unlock all of the different abilities. When it comes to replayability, I gave it a 9 out of 10 as well, because there's so many things to keep you occupied, and all the side stuff is pretty interesting to keep you engaged. I remember there were several times where it's like, okay, well, I need to get to the main story mission. Oh wait, let me stop and do these 3 side quests first. So that happens along the way. I think they're built in a way that makes it really engaging, so that you are able to stay on top of. Keep playing and build your character up. When it came to originality, I gave it an 8 out of 10. That's primarily because they were able to have so much more creative freedom with the game. Even though there's a lot of elements that feel really familiar, and then they had just plenty of Easter eggs that give information of the foreshadowing of the future, and they have other characters in there maybe in the future games. They've changed things up in a way that makes it pretty interesting and added other elements that maybe not included in previous games. So originality, I think they hit the mark. So on to one of the most important categories is value of money. I put this at a 9 out of 10 because you can seriously put in a lot of time on this game. Like I said, I did about 21 hours just completing the main story, and you're going to see in some of the images, I'm going to put them on the screen, where the map is totally not even, used. I probably covered 60% of the map. So there's so much to explore. There's so much to experiment with, especially if you want to be a completionist. I could see this game easily hitting the 50-hour mark. With capturing and gathering every element that you possibly can. So for that, I give it a 9 out of 10. So the overall score I'd give for this game is an 8.3 out of 10, and that's just taking up all the totals, summing them, divided by the 10 categories, and coming up with an average. So based off of that, 8.3 is very solid B. It's not the best game you'll ever play, but it is a very solid game in the series, as well as worth the purchase. I'd probably wait off maybe until it gets a little bit discounted unless you're just a huge fan of the series. I think the game will drop probably over the holiday season, so pick it up around that time. Definitely a way to pass time and great fun to actually play. I'd like to know your thoughts down in the comments section. If you did enjoy the video in any way, go ahead and click that like button. And if you didn't, go ahead and click dislike. And if you're new to the channel or maybe want to see some more of my content, go ahead and click subscribe. Really appreciate it. It helps me grow as a channel. Thank you, and as always, have a great day.